Hi, this is Dan Holbrook from Suncraft Solar, homing in on solar, and a presentation talking about the unique, creative, innovative opportunities for solar and group discount programs in purchase buying opportunities. So the big question, why solar? What is it about it that has created such a unique and perhaps compelling opportunity today? And why now? Well, the best way to look at it is to look at the pillars of this solar proposition. Obviously, pillar number one is the savings on the monthly utility bill. That's what everyone seems to focus on and should, perhaps because solar is all about money. But it also increases the value of the home. We're going to look at how that value is calculated and the math of that economic proposition. In addition, we have solar renewable energy credits. This is where carbon trading comes in, and it's going to create a unique future and a unique opportunity to save and make money by being renewable and sustainable. And part of the reason that's coming to pass has to do with the perfect solar storm. Because what's happened right now is the stars are aligned. We're mixing metaphors here, I know. But the panel costs have dropped by 40% in the last year or so. There's solar panel wars, and the benefactor of that is, in fact, you. And that's created and improved the solar proposition dramatically. In addition to that, there's new financing and leasing programs. When financing is brought to the table, when people are available to take advantage of huge savings with no money down, opportunity abounds. It has happened in numerous industries before, and certainly right now, this big threshold and a big difference that's made in the solar world. Also, energy costs, they continue to rise. It's something that's going to continue to affect us. We're going to look specifically at how much and what that means. In addition, the tax credits and the rebates. So the rebates are declining by design. Tax credits still are there, and you can subsidize 35% of the cost of installing a solar system today. 1/3, approximately, of the system is paid by the government and subsidizing your utility bill. In addition to that, technology has moved the efficiency higher and higher, where now you can get up to 19% efficiency. 19% of the sun's light can be converted into power for your benefit. And then an emerging financial market for carbon trading is going to create greater value for your financial decision today, something that can pay you actually for being green well into the future. Now you want to be part of the growing 1%, because the solar proposition actually right now is reaching the tipping point. Right now there's about 1% of the customers of San Diego Gas and Electric, in this particular example, have solar installations. 1.4 million San Diego Gas and Electric customers out there, and right now we only have about 12 to 14,000 solar installations. Now, as this 1% of the market grows, the energy costs for the rest are likely to rise, because what's happening is that the high energy users are reaching the pain threshold where they finally take themselves out of the market, and that is reducing the profit to San Diego Gas and Electric. And since San Diego Gas and Electric is a utility, they're going to pass those costs along to the remaining. And what's happening right now is the growth of solar. We have 14,000 solar installations over 25 years in the solar industry. Well, what's happening is every year that growth is exponential. So we're going to see the market reaching a tipping point, and it's going to create more and more opportunities. Now, here's an argument, because part of what is pushing the solar proposition today are rising utility rates. Again, as more and more homeowners look at this situation and realize that they have an option, they're going to do something different. Now, San Diego Gas and Electric is a natural monopoly. They actually have control over the energy provided to you in San Diego County. And part of their requirement as an actual monopoly by law is that they have to generate 33% of their power from renewable sources. In order to meet that requirement, they're building a $2 billion Sunrise Power Link. Part of their argument, and that is because they have to generate 33% of that power from renewable sources. One of the ways that they're able to get that is from Imperial County, which is, well, it's several miles away. And what they're going to do is generate renewable power over there and transmit it to your homes over here via a $2 billion Sunrise Power Link. Then they're going to pay for the most expensive electricity, which is renewable, and bring it over to you. Utility rates have increased 6.7% per year when they were using the cheapest power sources with the most expensive transmission lines, and they were still doing that when they were buying dirty coal. We still increased at an average of 6.7% per year. So what happens when these new requirements kick in and we have to pay increasingly more? In addition to that, an aging utility infrastructure requires repairs and maintenance on an ongoing and recurring basis, because what happens is the power is not being generated where it's used, it's being generated all over the place and has to be transmitted to you. So all of these things are putting increased pressure for you to pay a higher utility rate. So let's look at why it's not good to be San Diego Gas and Electric right now. We mentioned that the requirement for renewable power. Do you know that the law required that San Diego Gas and Electric get 20% of their power from renewable sources by 2010? Unfortunately, by the end of 2010, they only had 12% of the power. Now, 33% of their power needs to be renewable by 2020. They're still under the gun to do that. So they're going to be spending a significant amount of money in order to meet that requirement. And if they don't meet that requirement, they're going to pay huge fines. Huge fines for not meeting those goals. And just so you know, renewable power isn't cheap, certainly compared to other sources of power, particularly when you're trying to generate other places and transmit it someplace else. So renewable power costs on a wholesale basis 300 to 500% more than non-renewable sources. And now the utility has to get 33% of its power from this most expensive source. So they're going to be huge costs of meeting these mandated goals. Sunrise Power Link is just one of those, and just one of the beginnings, and we're seeing it starting right now. Now let's look at why it's not so good to be a San Diego Gas and Electric customer. San Diego Gas and Electric, along with many other utility companies throughout the state, are natural monopolies. The way they work is that they pass all their costs through to you plus a profit. They go to the Public Utility Commission and they have to get their cost approved and their increases approved, but they seem to do that on a regular basis. Now, as higher power users go solar, all other customers are going to have to make up for that lost profit because their costs are not going down. The lines are the same. The maintenance is pretty much the same. And so it's just like any business. They're going to lose revenue, but their costs are going to be the same. And since this is a pass-through to you, who's going to pay for those costs? You own nothing as a customer, and yet you will continue to pay more forever. So you're basically renting your electricity from an entity that is going to continue to charge you more because it's going to continue to cost them more, and all you can do is pay it forever and ever and ever. Unless, of course, you go solar. Now let's look at why it's good to be a solar power owner. You're able to be the owner of the power where it's used. You can increase your home value through its savings. Your home value increases actually based on a formula of the money that's saved annually. You're going to create an asset with renewable energy credits, and you're able to lock in energy costs. Bottom line, you're going to own the power. Significant difference, significant opportunity. Now let's look at the benefits of ownership. Let's just imagine, for sake of argument, we had a $150 per month bill. Did you know that that's going to cost you $150,000 over 20 years? That bill is going to cost you $150,000 over 20 years and will continue to cost more and rise. Now you can save 30 to 50% of your energy costs. 30 to 50% of your energy costs by going solar. You can also create an asset that generates an income stream. We're going to talk about renewable energy credits and how that works, but it's an asset that generates an income stream. And we're not talking about just savings. You see, solar, the way we see it, it's a math problem. And you know the truth? It's simply in the numbers. Energy's a debt. And a solar solution, the way we look at it is a solar solution is all about money. So the question is, how much money can you save? What value will you create? How much control will you gain? And how much will it cost? You see, those are the things we need to focus on. This isn't a home improvement like a pool or a spa or a kitchen or a bath or carpets or drapes. This is an asset that creates value, that saves money, and puts greater control in your life. So let's look at that nasty little utility bill and see what you are, in fact, paying for. You might see on your bill a notice for nuclear decommissioning. You'll see things like public purchase programs, competitive transition charges. You'll see reliability services. You'll see power generation. You'll see transmission. You'll see distribution. These are all costs on your bill. Now let's look at what you're paying for. The devil's certainly in the details of this bill. Do you know of all of those costs, only 30% of what you pay is actually going to electrical generation? We've got 36% going to distribution, 8.4% going to transmission. So clearly, almost half of that bill, or about 44% of that bill, is going to just get the electricity from wherever it is to where you are. And then the balance of those costs are more, administrative. The competitive transition charge, as an example, is something that enables the utility to move from a regulated to an unregulated utility. Nuclear decommissioning are for studies to retire old nuclear power plants. Reliability services are funds set aside in the event of disasters or interruptions. Public purchase programs are actually to subsidize and pay for some of the rebates for the solar program and some of the efficiency programs to encourage people to spend less on their electricity. So you see, only 30% goes to the electrical generation, your real hard cost of power. And now let's look at that bill where we have utility tier rates. No, it wasn't a misspelling. It certainly, when you look at your bill, many of you might want to cry because this structure will certainly do it. So let's take a look at your first tier. First tier, about $300. Every utility bill is a little bit different depending on the region, but this is, kind of a general outline. You've got 300 kilowatt hours of electricity that you get to have at 14 cents, a relative bargain, a deal. And then when you go over those 300 kilowatt hours, you will then pay 16 cents. That's that blue mark there, 16 cents for the next, patch of kilowatt hours. But beyond that, beyond that second tier, when you get into the third tier, you're going to pay 31 cents for the next 300 kilowatt hours and 33 cents for everything else. So certainly you can see that as you get beyond the first 390 kilowatt hours of usage, you will pay significantly more. By the way, that funny little red bar that popped up in the middle, that would be sort of an example of a utility bill with solar, because we would keep you within that, within your first tier, or perhaps with no utility bill at all. So if you had a choice of where you'd want to pay, if you paid anything at all, it would be in that 14-cent first tier range. Reduce before you produce. It's one of the first steps to take in any solar proposition or solar solution. There's no reason to fill up that energy bucket if it has holes in it. And some of the largest holes that you have in home energy is with your pool pump, a single speed pool pump versus a variable speed, or some of the older inefficient HVAC system, heating, venting, air conditioning, or perhaps hot water and or insulation. We want to look at some of the larger energy users and some of the fixes that we can make before we go in and produce more electricity that's only going to go out the window or out to your utility company. So let's take a look. Solar savings, that's what this is all about, trying to generate energy use and try to figure out why solar works. Solar is an equation actually where defies logic and reason, or at least our traditional thinking, because it is an equation where 1 + 1 can equal 3. Because solar costs less per month than your current electricity. It's an interesting proposition. You will save money today and into the future because you're able to lock in your current energy costs and avoid that 6.7% increase or whatever increase we might have to suffer through in the future. It's able to generate the power where it is used. Remember that only 30% of your current utility bill is being used to generate electricity. The rest of it is spent for the business end of electricity and also the transmission of the power from wherever it is to where you need it. Why not generate the power where you need it now, cheaper? In addition, it increases your home value. We talked about the equation of for every dollar that you save in your current annual utility bill, it increases its home value by 20. In this proposition, solar is one of the best investments you'll ever be able to make, and it creates an asset that rids you of the continuing and rising liability of your utility bill. It's something that will never go away unless you convert to ownership. And besides that, it's the right thing to do. It certainly is environmentally, but more importantly, it's the right thing to do economically for your own personal benefit. The fact that it's good for the planet is a value added. Now let's take a look at the snapshot of the savings, because any utility bill right now, it's all about the money. So let's take a $200 utility bill. You have a system size that might meet that need at about 5.5 kilowatts. If you were to take that and buy that system for cash after the tax credits or the rebates, you'd be looking at a 10.25% return on investment. That means that this investment will generate 10.25% on your money or your utility bill today. Now, if your utility bill continued to increase, which everyone projects, then that return on investment will go up every single year. It's one of the best investments you can possibly make. Lease payment would be at $150 per month, and you're able to lock your future increases lower than what you'd be paying on your utility bill. Lease purchase, probably a unique and innovative way to combine the best of both. If you were to do it with a equity line, it'd be a payment of $126, and you'd never have an increase in the future. $126 would be all you'd ever pay for your electrical use on that $200 a month bill. Now let's look at a $300 bill, a 9.2 kilowatt system. Now, because you have more of a tier 3 and 4 usage in your bill, the return on investment gets even better. 12.21% on a lease. You'd have a payment of $192 versus your $300 and a lease purchase at $160. Now, as we go up to that $400 bill, a larger system, 11.5, again, the 12.21% return on investment based on today's utility bill. Next year, if the utility bill goes up, that ROI, the return will go up as well. $272 on the lease or $293 on the lease purchase. Interesting math, and that's what we want to try to look at, is look at your solar savings. Here's an example. If you were to buy a solar system and you were to avoid that beast in the back, that pink utility bill that is rising, in this example, at a rate at 6.7%. Not the higher increases that I think we'll see in the future, but just the 6.7%, which represents the last 30 years of annual increases. It's a steady rise. But if you were to buy the system, pay it off in 15 years, you'd have a level payment. It wouldn't increase, and then it'd eventually go away, leaving you that blue after solar energy bill. A number of different ways for you to buy solar, acquire this with no money down. Again, whether it is the lease purchase, the normal lease, or 100% financing on a direct ownership, the solar savings are crystal clear. Now let's look at the solar and your home value. That's one of the second benefits of the economic proposition and the pillars of the solar proposition. And solar and home values, for every dollar that you save in your energy, it increases your home value by 20%. And this is according to a study by Berkeley Lawrence Laboratories. And what they determined is that the cost of your system is about half of what your increase in your home value would be. And this was a study of 70,000 homes done in April 2011. And what they determined is that for every dollar that you save in your energy cost on an annual basis, it increases the home value by $20. The math clearly works. Now let's take a look at a purchase of a home. If you were to buy a home and have a $400,000 mortgage and a $200 a month utility bill, what would this economically look like if you were to incorporate that at purchase into your home loan? The same thing could work true on a refinance of an existing mortgage. But here's the traditional mortgage. It would be, with the minimum down, would be $1,838. Now on that, compared to if you bought a solar powered home where the solar was in the home itself, with the purchase, and you could do that either before or after, you'd have a payment of $1,933. Now what's interesting is the traditional home now has a utility bill of $200 per month. By comparison, you barely move there, you'd have a $5 a month utility bill on the solar powered home. Now it doesn't stop there, because in order to make that $200 utility payment, you have to make $248. So there's $48 in taxes, because your utility bill is an after-tax payment, which means that you got to pay taxes, and then what's left you can pay your utility bill, whereas a mortgage is a pre-tax payment. No taxes taken out because of your tax deduction. So you can see a significant difference. You end up with lower monthly payments. You'd have a $1,938 versus a $2,000 plus payment. You'd have utility payment savings that are tax deductible. You'd have continued savings on your utility bill because the traditional mortgage, that $200 payment is going to continue to go up. The solar powered home mortgage, not so. It is a home improvement. It's environmentally responsible and certainly the right thing to do. This is a value proposition. We're going to take a look at the sale of 70,000 homes in California. Will actually prove out this math. Let's say you had that $200 a month utility bill again. You're going to save $2,400 a year. $2,400 a year in energy costs. Now you multiply that by 20, it's $48,000. Interestingly enough, and granted, there are some unique differences from property to property, area to area, and but the estimated cost of that system is about $24,000. Now again, we saved over $100 a month on our solar home on the mortgage versus a traditional, and we increased the value of the home and we avoided future rate increases. Now the third part of the solar proposition, the third pillar, are SRECs and carbon trading. Now let's take a look at carbon trading, and granted, this is something that's coming up in the future. Certainly cap and trade is here now, and what cap and trade is that there's a law in the books in place that says that in California that manufacturers have to reduce their emissions by 2020 to 1990 levels, and if they cannot cap them, then they can trade their way out to buy basically somebody else's good deed of installing solar, as an example, to offset their excess or bad energy use. Now, in addition to that, there's a renewable portfolio standards that each utility have. We talked about that a few minutes before, where the utility companies have to generate 33% of their power from renewable sources. To the extent that they can't do that, they could buy the good deeds of other people, the good energy that other people generate to offset their shortages. Now remember, he also said that San Diego Gas and Electric was required to be at the 20% mark by 2010, and they didn't hit it. They were only at 12. So it's creating this market. And on the northeastern states, there is trading right now for SRECs for utilities to meet their renewable portfolio standards, and one SREC is worth $650 per year in New Jersey. And one SREC is about, for every kilowatt of electricity, you end up getting about 1.2 SRECs. Solar has one of the highest values in carbon trading because it generates electricity when it's being needed most. And it's interesting because that's during the heat and middle of the day. Solar has the highest value of any. In California, carbon trading is projected to be a $10 billion market in California, and it's certainly coming. California has led the nation in this. The only reason we're not experiencing it right now is that as a result of the cap and trade bill, there have been numerous lawsuits that have been slowing down the carbon trading market in California. Now let's look at utility rates, past, present, and future. We've mentioned this a little bit before, but let's look at it again. Worth visiting, because utility rates increase at 6.7% per year with power sources of coal, gas, and nuclear power. This is our 30-year history. Now we have an aging infrastructure, and requirements to have 30% of renewable power are going to increase operating costs of the utility. Now, as the higher profit customers turn to solar, the profit margins of the utility company are going to go down, their costs are going to go up, and it's going to make it harder for the remaining customers. So they're going to have to increase rates. Big question, why SunCraft and SunPower? We've established that solar certainly makes sense. Now let's look at why SunCraft and SunPower, as a premier dealer for SunPower, SunCraft is coming to you with one of the best solar solutions, because SunPower is the #1 choice of homeowners. The SunPower panels have been installed actually in New York. 49% of all the panels that were installed, based on 209 statistics, are 49%. In California, it's 27%. You know, it falls off sharply right there with Sharp when they're representing only 9% and 17% of the market, and everything else, it just goes way down from there. They're the largest residential installation base in the United States. Tens of thousands of residential systems installed throughout the globe. They're the #1 choice of homeowners with the most experience. They're also a trusted choice for solar, having installed them for the Department of Energy, Department of Defense. They've installed them for HP, the U.S. Air Force, Johnson & Johnson, Applied Materials. They have gone and installed them for FedEx, Tiffany's, Lowe's, Microsoft, significant corporate and government installations for Target, Walmart, Macy's, Toyota, and the United States Postal Service. They are the trusted choice for solar with the most experience in the market. And they're a complete solar solution from a single source, from panels to inverters. You install the mounting systems, all inclusive, the monitoring in an industry-leading warranty for 25-year performance and 10-year product warranty, all inclusive, which is unique because most installation, every other installation, the panels and the inverters and everything is warranted separate. So if there's a problem, the panel company will say, well, looks like the inverter, and the inverter company might say it looks like the panels. With SunPower, one source, one solution, one warranty. But the key to the success really of SunPower is that they are the highest panel efficiency by manufacturer. They make the most powerful solar panel on the planet with a 19.5% efficiency. The next closest is Sanyo at 17%, and then it drops off significantly from there down to a 14% efficiency. The conventional panel is the rest of the pack. It's an interesting solution. They provide the best technology, and what that 19.5% means is that from all the sun that hits that panel, they're able to convert almost 20% of that into power, and that means more kilowatt hours. But the key to solar is to provide peace of mind. With a 25-year-old, $2 billion company with a 25-year performance warranty, a 10-year workmanship warranty, the warranty for both the inverters and the panels and all the equipment and the monitoring, and these are all things that provide to you a peace of mind that when you turn on the light switch, it will be powered by the sun with less cost than you would ever find again. So now you're here at crossroads trying to make a decision, and you obviously have choices. You can do nothing. You can continue to pay higher utility rates. That's clearly your choice. Or you could own the power. You could finance the system, pay it off in 15 years with no money down if you choose. You can lease and lock in your energy cost for 20 years. You could prepay the lease. There's flexibility, there's creativity, there's opportunity.